Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast powered by Cineman. I'm Ewan and Lachlan. As always, I'm joined by Lachlan Teely.
In a time where movies are being pushed, pulled, and completely scrapped, yes, I'm looking at you, Scoob, too. Both Venice and TIFF have announced their lineups. Also, this week on our new segment, Discussion Time, let's discuss about A24 films. Ewan, let's have a discussion about that.
Then there's also Gaming Week. I returned to gaming for the first time in years. I don't know if you gamed at all, Lachlan. This is just a me thing. But I gamed. I played a bunch of games and I will tell you about it. Then I also caught the new Disney film Haunted Mansion and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And then I also finished the latest really disappointing MCU series, Secret Invasion.
This week's film is the Australian directorial debut of both Danny and Michael Philippou, the Therackarackaand YouTube channel. This is great, Ewan. I'm enjoying it. Except this time, instead of it being just an A24 horror film, it's an A24 horror film down under. That's right. This week we are talking about Talk to Me.
Maybe in honor of that, in this week's intro clip should be played upside down in honor of those brave Australians. So let's cue that intro. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
did you get me a hat as well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
All right, Lachlan, welcome back. It's a big week for the Aussies at the theaters. You already talked about this film last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
so a while back already talked about it because you guys got it early before the rest of the world.
Yeah, which is rare.
It is pretty rare, yeah. But we'll be talking about that in spoiler fashion. He's upside down. Oh no. Oh no. This is finally accurate.
You want me to be upside down? I can
finally accurate podcasting how it actually is. But yeah. This is so distracting. Can I turn you around again? I need to turn my monitor around. Then I guess it's always a perspective thing.
Well, that was just my normal. I usually have to flip it anyway. So this is the flipped one. That was me just resetting all of my parameters because the video is already upside down.
It does kind of look like some kind of really sadistic saw trap of as he's like slowly just like your head boils up with blood. But we watched that trailer. You can check out the trailer reaction link below for Saw X or Saw 10. I don't know. It's the dilemma again with Fast and Furious. I don't know what to call this. I just kind of want it to be like go into a crazy direction because they've stayed pretty tame with the naming of like Saw. It was just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, was it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. But there's been a ton of them. Apparently, this is the 10th one. And it looks crazy. More of Saw. Lachlan, you're less of a fan than I am. I wouldn't say I'm a fan. I've just seen them all. But go give that trailer reaction a watch. And then both the Venice and the TIFF Film Festival announced pretty much their full slate. Venice did announce all of it. I think TIFF is still kind of rolling out and announcing some titles. So I just wanted to go over it with you. Unfortunately, Lachlan, you won't be joining me for either of them. I did get accredited for both, but I will only be going to Venice just because it's really expensive to go, and I think I can't afford to go to 2 festivals. If there's any sponsors want to come in last minute and save me and get me there, then I'll gladly go. But yeah, I won't be able to do both. But Venice looks more stacked anyways, Lachlan. Have a look at the list. Is there anyone that stands out to you from the people that are gonna have films premiering at the festival?
I mean, dude, as you said already, Venice is already packed. Like,
yeah,
Bradley Cooper, you got David Fincher, Coppola's there, Thanos, geez, they're the Linklaters there. That is a crazy packed lineup of big films. I thought Cannes would be pretty busy with Indiana Jones and Killers of a Flower Moon, but man, David Fincher, that's exciting.
They have kind of less of, I guess, the 1 or 2 big like blockbuster premieres that they have, like the opening and closing film in Gun, or sometimes even in between with Indy 5 and then Elemental to close it, are a bit bigger, but the rest of the festival is a bit more niche. And I think Venice has established itself in the last few years to be the place to have pretty viable Oscar contenders and great films for the rest of the year, whereas TIFF we'll get into that in a second, has a bit more of like the forced Oscar run stuff that really tries to appeal for that fall festival audience to get in there. And I feel like Venice oftentimes gets the better lineup of it. We got the Maestro, The Killer, Priscilla, Poor Things, Ferrari, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, Origin by Ava DuVernay, that wasn't even announced yet and just popped up here. New film from Linklater, Hitman. But what Gunn and Venice kind of does is it also still legitimizes, I'd say, canceled directors and pretty shitty people. So in the lineup, amongst this, we also got a new film from Luc Besson, Woody Allen, and Roman Polanski. And that's a bit of a big yikes for me, in my opinion, just because I feel like also Polanski and Woody Allen haven't made great films in a long time. So I feel like, you know, we can just like, they don't need to be in the film scene, in my opinion, anymore. Just like, you know, let them rot away somewhere. I don't need them. That's that. I'll be looking forward to watching all of those films. There's a ton of stuff that is not as like US English speaking focused as this is. And the only film that actually got pushed was Challenges. Ultimately, Venice ended up managing to have pretty much everything stay on that they had initially planned, even without the actors participating. I'm still a bit conflicted about like doing the coverage there and stuff like that in accordance to the strike. It feels odd. But yeah, looking forward to watching those films and doing coverage for it. So stay tuned. We'll be on this channel and on my personal one. And then TIFF has one movie that I'm really keen for, and Lachlan, I think you messaged me as soon as you saw it, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the new Hayao Miyazaki
Dumb
film.
Mummy.
What? Dumb Money. I'm actually seeing Dumb Money in less than a week, but I will be
Show
under
off.
strict embargo,
Show off.
and I won't be able to talk about it. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say that I am gonna watch it, but it's like, yeah, it's like an insider thing, cinema thing for work. I'm seeing it, so I won't be able to talk about it until like it actually comes out.
I like how you said that you're gonna go see it, then you remembered that it's under embargo, and that you don't think you can say you can see it, but you just continue talking about how you're gonna go see it and how you saw and how you are seeing it.
I'm certainly one of the two things in the title.
I can see you Mark Ruffaloing it, like live streaming to Instagram and like leaving it in your pocket accidentally.
So I'm still not sure if this is under embargo. It didn't say anything about Instagram Live. Yeah, that's that. But The Boy and the Heron, also known as How Do You Live, Hayao Miyazaki's last movie, I think this time actually, is opening the festival in TIFF. And yeah, even if I had gone to TIFF, I think I would have missed this, because I would have stayed to pretty much the end of Venice, and then I don't know how many rescreenings they would have done it if I ended up missing it. But they got a ton of stuff from Gunn, if you have a look, Lachlan. Your favorite film from the festival, La Chimera, is also playing there. Anatomy of a Fall, Kidnapped 4 Daughters, Last Summer, Monster, The Zone of Interest, The Pot au Feu, Firebrand, Perfect Days, The Nature of Love, The Old Oak, and The Bride of Tomorrow. So a bunch of repeats for me, which even solidifies why maybe I don't need to go. I think one of the big movies that we've been anticipating a lot, and I see you already got it highlighted here, is Taika Waititi's new film, Next Goal Wins. That's one of the ones that will be playing at the fest. I mean, your cursor is right there. I can see you. Now you got it highlighted. I think they also have Hitman from Linklater playing there. And then for the rest of it, not really like any crossover at all with Venice, other than a big movie that they got is The Holdovers, and then also Rustin. Those two films are much anticipated for, I guess, their reception, because they supposedly are, for the performances, could be big Oscar players. And that's that. They got a couple of films from Sundance as well, and that's pretty much it. So far, I think they hopefully are announcing a couple more films, because TIFF definitely looks like it's a bit slacking compared to Venice. That's the news of the week. So, Lachlan, for this week's yes, he just added into the show notes that The Old Oak is a really bad movie, and I think I'm coming down on it as well. Like, the more I think about it, the less I like The Old Oak. But yeah, that's the new Ken Loach film. Discussion time, Lachlan. This week, I want to discuss with you why A24 has been so successful, and especially with horror. I think it has established itself as a quality place to showcase and to watch horror films. So yeah, Lachlan, what do you think that is?
Why do I think A24 is good at horrors? I think that they have always tried to break the mold a little bit, and they would offer horrors that aren't at a surface level scary. Like, they don't reveal too much. I really love like one of their early stuff, something like It Comes at Night. You never see the monster or monsters or whatever they're scared of. And it's the same with The Witch, right? You never see it. And it's the same way that how successful Blair Witch Project is. You don't see the witch, and you don't need to see the monster, where Paranormal Activity and The Nun and all of these, I guess, modern horrors reveal the monster. There's a really good video essay on A Quiet Place and how it ruins the monster by showing it in the first, opening scene. Without showing it, you get a lot more horror to it. And a lot of A24's horror, at least the really successful ones, are a monster that's not really there, or a creature that's not really there. And more recently, they've tried to take ground on, more unique horrors. I think that if you go A24, people immediately go, oh, Hereditary. And I think it's a great example on like a really modern horror. But it's the same with, The Lighthouse or Midsummer or The Witch, right? Robert Eggers and Ari Aster are two really awesome horror directors working today. And it's just that they've picked some really good minds who showed some talent, and they've absolutely nailed it. So their recent stuff with like X and Pearl is really exciting with the gore side of it. And Talk to Me is a really interesting step because it's gory, it's violent, and it steps into that world of showing you the horror without showing you too much of the horror, right?
Yeah.
There's the without getting into Talk to Me, there's that little moment that we spoke about just before the recording of the podcast.
Yeah.
I wish there was more of that balance, and I spoke about that a few weeks ago when I first saw it on my little spoiler-free discussion. We'll get into this a bit later, but I think where A24 is going with horror is unique. It's their bread and butter. They got really successful off of this. And if they need more money for other funding to make more Beau is Afraids, then let's let them do successful horrors for cheap, make them a lot of fucking money so they can fund more unique products.
I think so. I think Ari Aster is definitely an interesting one to come out of A24 because he is probably the most popular one. Having made, I'd say probably the top 4 or 5 most popular A24 films with Hereditary and Midsommar. And he stayed with A24 to do Beau is Afraid, right? And someone like Robert Eggers, who also made 2 films, The Witch and The Lighthouse, arguably quite a bit weirder for them, managed to, I think, do a big movie with Universal, if I'm not mistaken, for The Northman. So it kind of outsourced the bigger budget. And what you can see, and what we used to talk about this a bunch early on in the podcast as well, is that like the entry way into filmmaking for a lot of filmmakers is through horror because it is less expensive, but usually it is kind of coming with ultimately like someone like James Wan with Saw, right? Has a really restricted way of approaching a story. And I feel like with A24, it did have a couple more resources to actually flourish their story to whatever they want it to be. I think that's where they shine, because they don't cheapen out on the horror in that way that they want to make it as cheap as possible for the biggest margins, but they actually want to make interesting horror films. And you can see it reflected in how A24 treats its creatives, especially like during the strike right now, because A24 is back up and running. They are doing productions because the conditions that the actors and the writers had for the studios, they've accepted them, and they are continuing to work. And I feel like that is also reflected in the type of horror films that they do, I think they kind of know their audience quite well. So in recent times, I can see where like something like X, I think, is having more mainstream appeal than something like The Witch and The Lighthouse ever had. Hereditary and Midsommar just ended up being so big just because they're so like that they're great. But there's also like a lot of misses that they have, like stuff that no one really wants to talk about, like the Hole in the Ground. I didn't really like Saint Maud as well. False Positive was quite a weak one. Men was really up there. Some people liked it, some people really hated it. And Bodies was another like really controversial one. So they got a couple that really stand out and that kind of reflect their whole brand. And yeah, it carries them through. I mean, they even worked with Gaspar Noé on some like really weird high trip of climax. I feel like the variety that they still got and the unique voices is what's making them really successful. And I feel like they picked with Talk to Me another two interesting directors that have something to show for it. Same goes with Ty West, who also is quite interesting in his filmmaking approach. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. That's Lachlan's thoughts. Anything you want to add to our discussion time? No?
I was just trying to see what the most expensive A24 film.
It's got to be Beau is Afraid.
It looks like it's Beau is Afraid, which estimate is 35 mil. Before that, it looked like it was The Green Knight, which estimated at about $19-20 million. So you can kind of see that where Robert Eggers left, you know, he needed a bigger budget. I think the Northman was, when I quickly searched, I think it was like 30, it was like 35 80. Maybe.
Oh, I think it was even higher. How much was the
Wait,
Northman?
The Northman was higher? No, the Northman was not $80 million.
I think it was. Way. No, I think it was. Yeah, 70 to 90 million. I was dead on the dollar there. That's not a saying, but it was 70 to 80 million. It cost a shit ton of money, and it lost him so much money. But it made 70 million at the box office, and it cost like 80. So that means like they lost probably close to like 100 million on it.
All right, okay, stop. We're doing a discussion time on Robert Eggers really quickly.
Okay, let's do discussion time on Robert Eggers.
His three films, The Lighthouse, The Witch, The Northman, rank them.
I gotta go Northman at the top, Lighthouse, Witch. I kind of like the progression of his filmmaking through his three films. What about you? I like all three of them.
I need to rewatch The Northman.
I definitely
feel like
I haven't rewatched it as well. You really loved it. I think you gave it like a 9 or at least an 8. At least an 8.
Dude, I gave The Northman 4.5.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I also gave it a 4.5. I really liked it. I gave The Witch a 4 and The Lighthouse a 4. Lighthouse a 4. So yeah.
I reckon no one hate me. Lighthouse, The Witch, The Northman.
See, I feel like is there a big step down from the Lighthouse, from The Witch to The Lighthouse for you?
No. However, The Witch as a movie, anyone can watch it.
Yeah.
Anyone, right? Mm-hmm. You can watch it with your mates, your film lovers, you know, your family, and everyone's going to enjoy it because it's Robert Eggers, because it's not very weird. The Lighthouse is weird, and people are going to hate that. So as a movie,
The Witch is also
like, I think,
kind of weird at times. It's like
but not as weird as The Lighthouse.
Not as weird.
Not as weird.
Not as like,
and I think The Lighthouse
stuff.
marginalizes a bunch of its audience by how weird it gets. The Northman doesn't do that. It has like a scene or two where it does, but other than that, it doesn't do that. So, and it's kind of the way that The Green Knight does the same thing with some of its scenes. Like, it seems a bit out of place to have like a cum rag wrapped around him at points, and like having, you know, the ghosts aspects to it, and then like the rewinding of time, like that can marginalize a decent amount of its audience. So I feel like The Witch, The Northman is the easiestly digestible of them all. It's quite straightforward.
Yeah, it's the mainstream one.
The Witch is solid in horror, and The Lighthouse is great for us film lovers, but from an outside perspective, I feel like people wouldn't like it as much. So yeah, I feel like just due to the fact that The Lighthouse is objectively, and this is legitimately a weird film, The Witch gets above it from a overall film standpoint. If we were like, what's the best film from a filmmaker standpoint, then I would definitely put The Lighthouse up there. I'd probably put it above the Northman. I think that what The Lighthouse really did is like technically incredible. But as a film, Northman, Witch, Lighthouse.
I do enjoy like that kind of tortured run of a character set on revenge, and like it's just a really intriguing story, and I think it didn't have the mainstream appeal of like watered down this Viking sailing story needs to be. But I mean, we also got something in anime that I recently started to watch with Vinland Saga that has had like a huge success, kind of subverting expectations.
I like how you bring anime into this.
Yeah, I've watched like 6 episodes and I cannot get further because like with anime it attends so much attention because there's so much going on, and I like to watch it with subs as well. So it just demands a lot of energy, and I haven't given it that, but I hear it does great things in the second season, and yeah, The Northman 4K can recommend. 2 great films.
I'll probably watch it.
I will rewatch it as well. I don't have
discussion time.
4K of it.
Should we call it over? Is this discussion time over?
Over. Yeah, that's over. Because let's get to what we've been watching. Lachlan, what have you been watching? Have you been watching anything?
Yes, actually. It's been, what did you say? Game week.
I've
been making my way through Star Wars, but it's also been TV week, and I watched...
it's not Morbius this time, disappointingly. The Last of Us. Oh, damn. Is that a 4K? Ooh.
4K, baby. I decided to start watching The Last of Us in 4K because here in Australia we have a service called Binge, and it does not stream in 4K, so I've got to rely on my television to upscale it to 4K. Doesn't look that great.
Also streaming, it looks fine. It's always reducing it a bit. Yeah, I get that.
This is a beautiful version of the TV show. It's also got 2 hours of bonus content, such as 3 never before seen featurettes, which I'm excited to watch. But like just watching, I skipped through a couple of the episodes to get to like really interesting scenes, really beautiful scenes. The CGI doesn't look as great.
Okay.
On the 4K, but that's just me pixel peeping because I can now in 4K. So I guess that's the benefit of like early high definition films, is that they were the same resolution as the visual effects. So I can say I missed out on I think there was a steelbook. I missed out on that, but it's okay because I'm not a big TV
guy.
show. I'm not a big TV show 4K collector, but I thought I'd get this because I really enjoyed this show. I thought it was like a really great adaptation. But yeah, other than that, just watched that, Supernatural, and I started watching The Witcher new season, and I say started because I watched 1 episode and was like, this is terrible.
Oh no, okay. I see it whenever I open up Netflix, I see it pop up and I'm like, should I binge the first 2 seasons so I can just finish this run with Henry Cavill before
it's
Liam
not good.
Hemsworth?
It's not good.
Right.
I kind of want to go back and replay The Witcher 3 just so I can remember that The Witcher is good.
Yeah.
It's good. And it makes me think that I liked the first 2 seasons too much.
Right.
Possibly. I know I didn't like the second season, but I definitely knew I liked the first season. I thought it was like, oh, this is good. Hopefully it can get better. It doesn't. Warning, it gets way worse. And I just want to wait for the second part to come out, which I think it already has, and I'll just skip to the last episode because whatever. The CG looks terrible. The writing is atrocious. I can see that the main 3, Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri, those 3 actors, I know that they really enjoy the role and they have enjoyed the source material. We know that Henry Cavill has, but I believe that both the Yennefer and Ciri actress, they all really want this story to be great. Just like any actor does, they want the performance that they're doing to be great so that they can bring this awesome story to life. But I just feel like, man, Netflix is shitting the bed with this one.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there like a quote about it that the writers don't enjoy the source material and stuff like that?
I mean, you don't have to enjoy the source material to write something good. That's the thing. You don't have to enjoy something when you're adapting it. that's the thing. You can take the best parts about it and you can make it better. And I haven't read the original books. I haven't really taken my time to read those. I know the games fairly well. I haven't fully played 1 and 2, but I've played majority of it, and I know the story of them. I want to wait for the remake. That's the thing. I don't really enjoy the.
Well, for the Witcher 3 or for the first two?
Oh well, they're remaking Witcher 1.
Okay.
Which would be good.
I might even play that as well. I haven't
Dude,
played
it's
games
it's so old, and it's the mechanics are so bad.
Yeah, obviously when the remake.
Out,
Not before that. I'm not gonna do that to myself.
I just feel like Netflix is really shooting itself in its foot.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do I'm doing a mini discussion time, but Netflix has really in the past couple years fucked themselves over by doing the non-password sharing things, increasing prices, and making really terrible options when it comes to their originals. I mean, their originals have never been great, but the thing is, they're just really making terrible stories for no reason. So, mini discussion time over, but Netflix, you just need to be better.
I think I wanted to add something to that, but I guess you already closed discussion time. I think maybe we can do it in an upcoming week, but the ad tier that they're launching with Microsoft with that deal, it's really interesting to see how they are gonna roll that out. Now that they are cracking down on password sharing, that's kind of what they wanted to do simultaneously, but it's taking longer. But save that for another discussion time, because that's all you've been watching, right? Can I get to my onslaught stuff real quickly? Go through it.
Of stuff.
Lachlan, how many seasons of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia do you think there are?
How many seasons?
Yeah,
I think there's 12, right?
No, they actually just wrapped their 16th season. Lachlan.
Oh, I was close.
But what they've been doing recently is, I guess, have shorter seasons. Like this latest one, I think only had, if I'm not mistaken, 8 episodes. So that's also we almost did this as discussion time. Why are TV shows getting shorter and shorter? We're saving that for another time as well. I got so many discussion points to you for the two of us. But it wrapped, and I think it had one of the strongest episodes in a while. So even if you're not a huge fan of Sunny or have not kept up with the show, I can really recommend the season finale, which I didn't even notice that there was a season finale. So a couple of days ago, I was checking, hey, when's the new episode coming out? I don't see it. It's the season's done, which is titled Dennis Takes a Mental Health Day. And it's the best of what Sunny can do. Really, really strong episode. So go give that a try. Can recommend the whole season. I think you've tuned out of the MCU shows. What's the latest one you've watched?
The last MCU show that I watched?
I think it's been a while as well since one came out.
I didn't watch She-Hulk. What was before She-Hulk?
I think Miss Marvel was before then, right?
I didn't watch that either.
Summer. Yeah. And you also haven't watched
What was before that?
I think Loki, probably.
I haven't watched Secret Invasion, if that's what you're... I kind of on and off Hawkeye.
Right. There's only 6 episodes. How on and off can you be with something that's so short? Okay, so this miniseries run, this limited season run is again one of these one series things that they do, which just always feels like a condensed down 3-hour movie that they then release in 6 different episodes. And it started off kind of interesting with, if you don't know the premise, is that Skrulls have invaded and they've taken on some big roles in the MCU. And in the comic, as far as I'm familiar with it, I haven't read it, is that it actually, they take over pretty big names in the MCU and replace them, have their powers and stuff like that. And here they got just a way smaller cast. And there's a couple of people that that are just oh my God, this person has been a Skrull for all this time. But it just fumbles the bag so hard. I think it had the lowest rated finale of any MCU show ever, because it just kind of wraps up really quickly, jumps around, and it's just an overall mess. And it was unfortunate because I thought maybe this is going to be quite an interesting thriller, how they set it up. Political intrigue, kind of being able to swap someone's face, take it on, and then blame them for stuff. But even Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson couldn't add anything interesting to it. And they end up going down really crazy routes. And it's just another one to skip. And I don't know how relevant it's going to be for the rest of the MCU, because I do feel like it's also kind of its condensed thing again. So I still don't know what they're doing. I think they kind of lost it. But I mean, that's not controversial anymore. Everyone kind of agrees with that. So you can skip, Lachlan. But speaking of the Spider-Verse MCU stuff, Tom Holland is in a series called The Crowded Room with Amanda Seyfried, where he plays someone who's got a multiple personality disorder, and it's part courtroom drama towards the end of it, but then early on kind of depicting his life with a couple of people, and then like the twist is, spoiler here, that he's all of them at the same time. And like it's a 10-episode series, and it takes like 6 episodes that could have been 2 and ends up being like a really crowded mess, not a crowded room. Can't recommend that one. A bit of a letdown, although the last 2 episodes are the strongest one by far of the show. Okay, so Lachlan, I think you said you watch a bit of basketball, right? Or am I mistaking you with someone else here? You're a bit interested in basketball?
I did when I was younger, but not so much now. But I do follow it occasionally.
So there's a great series called Winning Time. That's like got a really unique visual approach of how it cuts back and forth with like, I think, Super 8 footage, and it's about the Lakers dynasty. And the second season just dropped. I watched it a couple of weeks ago. The embargo is lifted by the time this episode comes out. And it just continues down to be a really interesting story. This time it does span a bit more time. I think the first season was just condensed down pretty much like 1 season. And here we get a couple seasons, the beginning of that dynasty run. And it's a really fun show. I can recommend it for anyone who likes basketball. I didn't even watch it, and I'm now considering, hey, should I sign up for, like, I don't know, ESPN or whatever to get that coverage in addition to me watching the NHL. I'll also in addition to me watching the NHL, I'll also be watching basketball in the future. I don't know. I'm kind of invested. It's really fun. 3 new movies that came out. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Lachlan, you told me you watched it a bit when you were younger, right? This is an animated...
Yes. Sorry, yes.
So you were just like nodding. This is an animated film that we were planning to cover next week, but turns out for some reason in Australia it's a couple more weeks away, so we might end up covering this in a couple of weeks in spoiler fashion. But it's pretty much a straightforward origin story for the Turtles here. I'm trying to familiarize myself with them. I'm going on a binge to watch a bunch of the shows. I'm planning to maybe do a marathon of all of the movies, and I might even do a live stream for that, and a drinking game out of it, just like watching them back to back. And it was enjoyable. I think I had a good time. It's definitely aimed for, I'd say, like Generation Alpha, like those young ones up to, what are they, like 14, 15 now? Maybe even younger than that. It's definitely like really of its time. Like this terms like Riz, who kept getting like one of the turtles doesn't have Riz, and that's like one of the main themes that keeps getting brought up and stuff like that. It's filled to the brim with pop culture references to an extent that I really didn't like, because they didn't really add to their character traits. It was just like them spouting references. I feel like, Lachlan, we're on the same train there, that we don't really enjoy that as much. So yeah, I feel like you're gonna just be okay with it. I gave it like a 6 out of 10. And then Haunted Mansion, the new Disney release of the week. Yeah, I watched the one with Eddie Murphy from 2000s, and then I also, for some reason, I also watched the Muppets one just because it was also on Disney Plus. This one is a bit of a letdown. Can not recommend. There's a couple of, I guess, big names in there who act in it. I mean, Lakeith Stanfield is too good for this movie, I'd say, but it's ultimately just like a bit of a Disney slob. Give it like a 4 out of 10. And then, Lachlan, were you a Nickelodeon kid? Did you watch a bunch of Nickelodeon growing up?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah? What were the type of shows you were watching?
Like, well, I would say I was more of a Cartoon Network kind of kid when I was younger.
Gotcha.
Not so much Nickelodeon.
Did you ever watch any of the live action stuff from there? Like, I don't even know what it was, other than the movie I'm about to talk about, but did you ever watch Zoey 101?
No.
No? Okay, because I did. I don't remember how much of it I saw. I definitely was on TV, so I definitely didn't watch like the whole show. But they made a movie with the cast, and it's been interesting to see like a bunch of these. What is another one called? Like Ned's classroom thing, where he got like a bunch of tips. Like that was one of them. And, like to see those people who did those shows like 15 years ago or whatever it was now pop up and do like podcasts and trying to get like something like this made. And they made a Zoey 102 movie, and for I'd say like for one of those films that tries to do the revamped requel thing, not I guess not requel thing, that just does a sequel of the show. It does it kind of successfully. It's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's also not funny, although it's a comedy, but it could be so much worse. And for that, I'd say, hey, if you're a huge fan of Zoey 102 and you're one of those people who need that nostalgia dip, then I guess maybe you get it. I didn't get it, but I did never really had nostalgia for it. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But what I teased at the start, go.
So you need to know, just quickly, Nickelodeon, only few shows that I watched: Avatar: The Last Airbender, Danny Phantom, Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Cat Dog.
I never watched any of those.
Drake and Josh and SpongeBob.
Yeah, I guess the only other live action one that I on and off watched was Drake and Josh. Or was iCarly also Nickelodeon?
I think so. Must have been. It was
because that like really. Sequel series I also binged. I think I talked about it on the bonus what we've been watching a few weeks ago a bit more extensively, but that's just horrible. It's so bad. I did tease it at the start. Gaming week is upon us, so or upon me. I started like a new little side gig where I do game reviews and stuff like that. It's in German, so don't even try to go have a look at what I write. You couldn't even read it. But I played a bunch of games that like all sort of that rank from all sort of quality from great to pretty horrible. I played the new Pikmin game. I've never played a Pikmin game. Like, I don't know. I assume you're the type of gamer who hasn't played Pikmin, right?
No, I haven't played it. Thank you for assuming my gaming choices.
Hey, you played The Witcher, so I don't know how to categorize you. But this is a ton of fun. Like, it's if they ever made a remake of some of the other ones, which I don't know if maybe they even have. This is such a fun thing to play while like you watch podcasts or whatever. And maybe I'm just rediscovering what gaming is, because I'm like with movies, it's usually just a movie on and I focus on it. But with gaming, I love to have like a video playing and stuff like that. And it's just reinvigorated my love for video games recently. So I've been playing that. Can recommend it. Great game. And then the little indie hit that's been making the rounds, Dave the Diver. Not 8-bit graphics, but definitely like some retro-style graphics where you are a diver and you go dive for fish and fight sharks, and then you make dishes out of it at a sushi restaurant. It's got a really fun gameplay loop. And yesterday I booted it up for the first time and I played like 6 hours straight. Don't remember the last time I played a game for this long continuously. So that's also a great one. Randomly, I saw on my TikTok feed a game pop up, which I'm not even on TikTok that much, but I guess they already figured out that I am now doing a bit more gaming. And they served me a video from the creator of The Master's Pupil, which is a completely hand-drawn game with the aesthetics there. It's got a bunch of, I guess, paintings from Monet that are then woven into the little narrative it's got going for it. It's pretty much a jump and run puzzle game. And it's been a lot of fun. It's also like working out some of the kinks. It's not like the cleanest game just yet. Some stuff still needs to be readjusted. I also got an early version of the game before it launched, so I don't know how much of that stuff is already fixed, but that one's also just come out, so go give it a try. It's fun. I think it's really an educational game, and I would love to see it like in classrooms, because it plays with like color theory and stuff like that. It's pretty fun. And then lastly, I think early on when I first watched YouTube, one of the games that I saw someone play on there was Super Meat Boy, like that really sadistic jump and run thing where you play a club of meat and I guess a cube of meat and you jump around and try to not get I guess killed by saws and they made a Puyo Puyo game with the antagonist here that's called Dr. Fetus Mean Meat Machine. Early on, I think it had a pretty fun gameplay loop where you clear like a level in a minute or two. But then in some of the further down, it has such an increase in difficulty that isn't really warranted. It's just like trying to get you mad. And it wasn't fun anymore. I ended up quitting it. I'm not planning to finish it. So I can't really recommend it just for that, like the opening parts of that game. But that concludes Gaming Week. Without further ado, are you ready to get to Talk to Me?
What's under that blanket?
Nothing. A table. But the table... what do you think there was under the table?
I don't know. I thought maybe you had like something planned because you revealed the table.
No, well, I didn't reveal the table. I revealed the
I can't trust you anymore, man. I don't know what's going to happen on these episodes anymore. Like all of a sudden,
just like flops down.
Like literally, like anyone could join at any point in this Discord chat.
Fair. Oh yeah. By the way, this is totally not. Talk to Me.
I said anybody could join this Discord chat anytime.
Callie's unfortunately not scheduled to come. If I had gotten her with those tickets, that thanks so much for Presence, which is the Swiss distributor of Talk to Me. They gave me free tickets for the film and also sent me the posters, which you can see in the background here. This is a bit of a luxury, but I love to have stuff in the background that reflects what we're talking about. So it's front and center right here with that film. Lachlan, can you read us the logline for Talk to Me?
When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand. Embalmed?
Embalmed, yes. It's like...
Interesting.
It's surrounded with stuff. Like it's balm.
That's what embalmed means?
I think it does. I don't know. It's in the middle of this logline.
I'm searching it. Hang on, I'm searching it. Yeah. The logline can wait. I'm learning new words.
Treatment of a dead body, so it's to sterilize or to protect it from decay. Which does make sense.
Oh, okay, cool. That makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense for the story.
When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. Wowzers. The film comes in at a 95-minute runtime, which is something that we love. Short and sweet.
For horror films. Yes, it does feel kind of short. I was surprised when the movie actually like ended because I thought there were like we had a good other 20 minutes in us, but no, it stayed short and concise. It comes with a budget of 4.5 million, so keeping that low as well. I don't know if that is in Australian bucks because then I don't know what that even would mean. What is even money in Australia? Yeah, so far it's been received pretty positively. A 3.7 on Letterboxd, a 7.5 on IMDb, and a 76 on Metacritic, which for a horror film specifically is very good. So it premiered earlier this year at Sundance and got picked up in distribution for A24. I don't think they actually were producers for the film itself. I couldn't see them listed there. It is a completely Australian-funded endeavor. I don't have the gross here of it so far, what it made at the box office, but I think it's doing fairly well.
Box Office Mojo at the moment has it as a domestic, because obviously domestic
US,
is 5.4 million.
5.4 million. I think with it coming out internationally soon, this movie will make its money back. I'm quite confident in that. But Lachlan, let's talk about it. Let's get into spoiler thoughts straight away, because I think. Do you want to do non-spoiler? Quickly tell people. No. Because he did already share his non-spoiler thoughts. I can say that I would recommend the film. I think it's a horror thrill, but we are going to get into spoilers, so go give the film a try. I think it is worthwhile. But Lachlan, I want to kick it off with just the opening of this film and how successful you think it is in like engrossing you in the story it's about to tell.
I spoke about this the other day. It takes me a while to get into films that have Australian accent. Even if it's my own accent, it takes me a while to get into it. And man, parties in Australia, especially on screen, are never exactly what they're like. I hate it because most parties that you see set in Australia that are shown on screen aren't representative of what parties are actually like. That's the thing. So it makes me a little bit disappointed that that's what they showed, because I'm like, that's not a... No one parties like this. It seems too Americanized for this sort of... where it's set, right?
Right.
But anyway.
What about it? I'm actually like curious. What about it do you think doesn't get it? Like the jumping in the pool, the type of like loud music playing and people in groups, or like what part of it isn't awesome?
Yeah, I mean, there'd be more food, there would be more beers, there would be less socializing, and you would be
more drinking, less
like
socializing.
Usually there's a shit speaker. No one actually has good speakers. Everyone has really shitty speakers, and that's what you're using for music. So yeah, and also like no one goes into the house. Most of the time you're outside. Like don't fuck up other people's houses. People know that. That's just rude. Anyway, I didn't get into the film immediately. That's the thing. It took me a minute, even though it was shocking. It doesn't interest me, right?
Yeah.
The shocking factor of violence does not interest me. I said this with the Saw trailer we did a reaction to.
Yeah.
Violence and gruesome acts do not interest me and intrigue me to continue watching. So it took me a while to get into it, and even though I feel like this opening was quite strong for most people, for me, it just isn't my cup of tea for filmmaking.
Yeah.
Or at least making me interested in the film. What about you? I feel like you're probably different.
He made himself a unicorn, and I like that.
Haha.
I think by itself, it is intriguing to go down that like shock factor, but then it takes such a different approach for my cats are going absolutely apeshit. I gotta lock them out of this room. Hold up 1 second. Sorry, had to lock my kids in the basement. But yeah, this opening is intriguing, but it's not for the film it sets out to become, because there's a couple of moments later on where some people do let themselves, or like one person lets himself be possessed. And we always kind of cut off where she comes back. And to me, it didn't really make sense, like where that's happening. And the escalation of losing grip of the hand is kind of like some of the logic steps are missing for this, for me to be engrossed in the story. Ultimately, I think I would have enjoyed a bit more of a slaughter of some of the characters, but then we focus way more on the family dynamics. And like you said, that's like the stuff that you enjoyed the least about it. All of the stuff that wasn't like peeping into the horror sphere and like those type of scenes. Because I thought like the strongest moments were them as a group kind of joking around and getting possessed and doing that sort of stuff. I think it is a good opening, but maybe not for the movie that they ended up making. Yeah.
Well, not entirely for me, because you said my least favorite parts was like the family parts. I think the strongest part of this film is midway through, where the mum is going around being like, "So when's the party?" Like that scene in amongst itself is one of the best moments, because it's very honest of how a scene like that would go down and how all the characters react to cover it up. And then from there, like I said a few weeks ago, there's a solid like 20 to 30 minutes in this film, and that's that moment, like from the mum being like, "So when's the party?" closing the door in the face of the guy, and then up until, you know, that kid gets possessed. So that's the strongest part of this film for me, because that's when it gets the most interesting.
Yeah. I think
so.
So as well,
I feel like the togetherness, the team amongst itself, it's fine. Like the people themselves, like the characters are fine. But as I said, this film is B-grade script, which for the majority of the film doesn't work. But once it's like it clicks in and out. It's in and out. Like this works for this moment. It doesn't work for this moment. The film goes in and out of being B-grade whilst wanting to be B-grade. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't know where it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to go full physical, or if it wants to go like fucked up imagery, or if it wants to go psychological or paranormal. Like the film just doesn't know exactly which horror it wants to be, and it tries to be a bit of an accumulation between them. And that's cool. You can do that, but it would be better if it focused on one of them, like the violence of the spirit, and then also say the fucked up underworld imagery that we get. So
yeah, I think what I did appreciate is that it doesn't go into the direction of completely taking the subjective view of the main character, as she like maybe could inflict if she ends up seeing more demons and inflicts more damage onto the people. I think I like that we get to see the repercussions of that immediately. So you're like, oh no, she gotta get her out of this, instead of doing all of this and then maybe going back in like almost flashback-esque of showing, oh, she actually ended up killing all of these people and was just possessed. But it would have been interesting. Like, I think when they do shift, like, first we get her subjective entry into this thing to understand the hand. Then the next time we see it, it's from an outsider view. And I think that like the setups for this are quite strong. Like they're really well done. And once we reach that climax where the little brother gets possessed, I was horrified. I think that was, to me, that was the strongest moment of the film. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I felt my pulse increasing, and I was like, oh, this is Hereditary all over again. We gotta kill the little siblings. I think if it leaned more into the other character actually doing damage to the people she loves a bit more, being with this conflicted thing with her mother that's talking to her, who is almost like, right, a demon leading her into the wrong directions. I think all of that is like interesting. It didn't really come together for me for that character, though. Like, I really love the ending. I don't really see the character fully getting there at times. I think it jumps a bit when I needed a bit of a filler in between. I like where it ends up. I don't love how it gets there.
There's a few Deus Ex Machina moments where, how do you get this object when we quite clearly see two of them shoving it in the bag beforehand, and then you've got it all of a sudden? So there's some moments that don't really make sense, and there's no explanation of how they got from A to B. And this is where we come down to like B-grade script, where they're trying to do more of the horror stuff so that you fascinate with that. But how they get to the moments, you got to kind of ignore that. You can't really dig deeper. I don't know why that took me a while to say. You can't dig deeper into this story.
You almost went Kiwi there for a second. You get to dig.
Yeah. So, like, as an A24 film, we definitely have had deeper substance when it comes to the films. And definitely films that are more something, right? And I don't think there's a lot of A24 films that go really big into the gory horror side of it, other than X with being like a slasher film, or some of the violence in Ari Aster's stuff. But I feel like Talk to Me is a step in an interesting direction, where they kind of showed off some really exciting action violence, which is a sort of a strength of both Danny and Michael with their YouTube channel, how it was quite violent and they have a background in sort of stunt work. That's exciting because we can see where good stunt work can come from, like with John Wick, and how a director who has stunt work knowledge can make that more interesting. And I feel like the violent part of this film, with the physical violence that spirits do to the hosts, is really sometimes like, oh god, that makes me uncomfortable, especially when the kids like slam his head against stuff. Like, that made people in the audience sort of, can you stop showing me that? Like, that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm excited to see where they go further in their career, when they can have a little bit more money and maybe a little bit more time to write something more juicy when it comes to its story, with a bit more fleshed out characters.
Right, it's not Michael, just Danny who's writing. But yeah, I mean, they got Bring Her Back, which I don't know what that movie is going to be about. That's an upcoming film they got. And then also the Street Fighter film that they are attached to. I think, like you say, the stunt work, I don't see a ton of that in there. I guess it's also because they do the stunts in a lot of the videos, but they're also directing the stunts, obviously. In The Possession, I think that's really like well made, the way that they also use the camera to dynamically show that shift I think there's a bunch of really good sequences that they do. I think the strongest moment, like you said, is like that short little moment that we get from like hell, or where he's actually kept, and that imagery, it's so quick. And I don't know if it's, you said you wanted more of it. I don't know how effective it was to just communicate the same point again if we show it again, like that he's still stuck in there, but to go deeper into that world might have been really interesting. Because essentially, like by the end, like big spoilers here, by the ending, right, when she dies, she becomes one of those cursed spirits. Is what I understood. Is that how you read the ending? I mean, like the thing is pretty straightforward of how to interpret it, but before that, she has like a slight moment where the world is okay, or I guess the people around her are still okay. So she's just in she's not in the actual world. She's like in a projected world because her dad's still alive. But yeah, that was an interesting. What did you think of the ending? I'll just ask you before I say myself.
I saw it as her in limbo before she gets to that fucked up world. It's a good ending. I enjoyed it because it wraps everything up as neatly as it possibly can without being too overdone, and it's satisfying to watch someone who we're trying to root for, but we struggle to because they're doing a lot of bad things. That's the thing. So it was never a character that I was engaged to see win. It was a character that I was following just for the story's sake, right? I wanted people who were innocent, like the young boy, to be let free. And obviously people we thought were bad, like the father, didn't actually end up being a bad person, just from the perspective of this manipulator. He was given to us in a negative light. He was never a bad person. Maybe not the best father in the world. He ain't winning any awards, but he wasn't someone who was a villain in this story, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, for me, go ahead.
I think for me, some of the screenplay tropes were kind of obvious from the get-go. Like when I saw her riding in the car, they sing along to the thing, and she catches him like smoking before us. Like, oh, someone who's easily influenced, he'll end up being the thing. I thought like, oh, it's gonna go the hereditary route while they were taking him to the party. Like I could see that, and I was just waiting for that stuff to happen. Same goes with the death of the mother. I feel like that was gonna be something where there's communication, and the communication is probably not gonna be like honest. So maybe that's just me anticipating where this movie ended up going, and I was just kind of correct at every stop of the way. But that just means it didn't really surprise me. It surprised me in its moments and making them tense, but not in the actual direction the story ended up playing. So that was a bit of a letdown for me.
I don't think the story is anything groundbreaking. I think it's quite predictable in where it goes. And I haven't praised the film for its story at any point. I don't think the story is anything super crazy. I think that visually and as a debut, as a directorial debut, it is quite strong in what they present. Sure. I want to go back to something really quickly, though, just because it only made me realize this when we said it. Obviously, we only get a glimpse into that horror world, right? Mm-hmm. And I kept saying that I want more and more of it. But now that I'm thinking about it, everyone that I've spoken to who've seen this film have taken away one thing, and that's how fucked up that visual part was with that underworld. And that's making me think, maybe I don't want any more of that. Because it's the smallest part of the film, and it's the biggest takeaway of it. It's like everyone goes, "Oh man, how fucked up was that? Was that split second?"
I think you still want more of it, which is to the benefit of the film. I think that's what it does.
I don't think I do.
You don't want,
I think I don't think I don't want more of that. I'd want more of it going into that direction, but I don't think I want more imagery of it. I feel like that because then it does the whole, my imagination's going crazy of what happens in this world. Like what would happen in that world now that I think of it. I don't know, they won't show me any more of it, but if I think about it, what else would be happening in that little purgatory place?
Yeah.
So, and that's more interesting to me now, I think.
From what I understand, I think, that's how I see it, right? When they let someone in, they have control of who is gripping onto them, because they're like, it's a handshake. They hold it and they let someone in for a short period of time. When it's the other way, when they step over the time, then they're pretty much up for grabs and everyone can attach themselves to it. And I think that's like, right? That's why they're holding on to it. What I didn't completely get is why he ends up getting better by the end. Is it because she keeps using it? So the spirits are torn to the hand thing again. So like they let loose of the other guy, of the kid, of the brother. I wasn't really completely sure what the logic was there, like why he gets better again. Because the spirits didn't seem to let up, and they made a point of like, you know, when she peeps the horror, when she looks into it, she says like, oh, they're not gonna let go again. So I
they
don't know.
found someone else to grab onto, I guess.
Yeah, or is he still? I don't know, because I think
again,
it's also,
this is the part where we can't dig deeper, because there really is no answer. We'll just keep going around in circles and circles, because the story isn't that well thought out, because there's so many plot holes and lines in it that get crossed and just fall apart. So we can't really go, oh yeah, they're in hell and she's not in hell anymore, and we can't decide whether he's been let go or not, because there is no definitive answer. And that's just because it's not the best story in the world.
I don't know. I'm just like questioning as well with like how bad he got, because she has a look at him inside of there. But what we've been led to believe from that spirit realm is that it's also misleading. So I think at one point when she looks down on him and it goes back and forth from her perspective of this like really rotten character, it goes to him and he's not like at all injured anymore. So I'm wondering if, and he wouldn't have healed up that quickly. So I'm wondering if like there's something that makes it, that part just doesn't really come together for me. It doesn't really make sense. But if it ended up being more of a projection of what she sees and it's actually not as bad in that realm, I don't know. It's a bit of conflicting narrative stuff that we got there, because obviously when he wakes up, he still tries to kill himself. I think ultimately this movie was really intriguing. It did a lot of stuff right. I also really liked the production design of the hand. Don't really know where they even got it from. It just like, I guess it just kind of pops up. Ultimately, I think I can recommend it. Like you said, I think B-grade horror that's, in my opinion, actually well done. I think it is similar in that way in what X is channeling a bit more successfully with like redoing that 70s slasher horror and imitating that here it's a bit different because it's demonic, it's possession, but it's down under. So that's your twist. They do stuff on the moon, in space, sci-fi. This time we got the genre of Aussie parties that are actually more like American parties. And I'm actually giving this film a 3.5 out of 5. I had quite a good time with it. Lachlan, what about you?
I'm a little bit harsher, I guess, because I feel like there are some slightly better Australian horror films out there, and I'm just a little bit biased on that one. But I still think it's a solid film, so that's why I'm giving it like 3 out of 5. I think it's solid. I just can't get over the script and the plot holes.
I gave you a bit of shit for that 2 weeks ago, but I actually do agree. Like that, I can totally see where it lands for a lot of people in that 3 to 4 range. Maybe some people end up enjoying it way more, but definitely somewhere in there. So no hard feelings about that. Anyways, let's pick a spooky double feature for this film. So what have you got, Lachlan?
So I've got 2 picks, which are also Australian horror films. Well, one of them is a horror film. The other one's a bit more of a thriller, but I wanted to add it because it's the same director, Jennifer Kent. If you haven't heard of Jennifer Kent, please go and see their work. It is absolutely spectacular. Their biggest 2 films, well, at least the biggest one would be The Babadook, which is a really fun horror film. Plays on the imagination a little bit, but that's a classic. And they didn't get a lot of press for this one, I believe. I guess it was a little bit less horror-y and a bit more thrillery. And that's The Nightingale, which is another Australian film, or at least set in Australia, but, you know, a bit more of a classic Australia. And it has some very, very hardcore imagery in the film, and I really enjoyed it. It's a nice slow burn set in the bush of Tassie. I believe it was Tassie that it was set in.
Oh, okay.
So not a lot of films set in Tasmania, at least from my knowledge. So
yeah, I don't think so either. I wanted to do like a discussion time at one point about like the state of Aussie film, but I definitely need to do a bit more preparation for it until we get to do that. But they would definitely be mentioned. Which,
other
by
than
the way,
3 films that I've just named just then, name an Australian movie other than Australia and Mad Max.
Waterworld. That's not Australian, right? Because you're the opposite. Wait, The Dirt.
The Dirt?
Isn't that like a movie? I don't know if that's a movie. The Dirt just seems like something that is Australian. I don't know. I mean the new boy, from Warwick.
Fair. That's right? Cheating because it was at Cannes.
It's also gonna be a TIFF to tie it back in. Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't. I definitely need to prepare.
You want a good one?
There's one with Rose Byrne and I think Heath Ledger, and I'm blanking on it, but I think I don't know if it's set in Australia. Don't remember.
Happy Feet.
Sure, yeah. There was a recent thing that Letterboxd posted.
That's George Miller. It's an Australian movie.
Exactly, where
it's not set in Australia.
George Miller chatted with Michael and Danny, and it was actually a really fun conversation that the 3 of them had. Which, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but both Michael and Danny did work on The Babadook in 2014. Michael was, I think, additional crew, and Danny was an electrician. I think a lighting grip on it. So they do have a bit of a tie to The Babadook and Jennifer Kent. But yeah, those are your picks. I'm going with...
Well, it's the same production company anyway, so...
Yeah, I mean, pretty much you want to make a film in Australia, it's going to go through Screen Australia, and I think this was also by the Adelaide Film Fund or something like that. I don't know if The Babadook was also that. But my pick is Possession from 1981. It is by a Czech director, I think? No, Polish director. And it stars Sam Neill as a pretty aggressive husband in there. I think it's a great film. Go give it a try if you can. Could fully recommend that one. Bit of 80s possession horror. But that's that. I also wanted to share, Lachlan. I know I surprised you last week when we did the Nolan bracket with our own Kelly Kunap, who ended up being the deciding vote for a bunch of them, which ended up playing into your favor because I was really bad at arguing. Go check that video out. But after that, I ended up running a poll over on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. About like what our audience would think would win in their opinion. And surprisingly, Tenet went really far. It didn't get to the finals, but like people ended up loving Tenet and kicked it out over Inception. Interstellar got kicked out, I think, in the semifinals or even before that as well. And our winner in the finale, we had The Dark Knight and Memento ended up winning the whole bracket. So I don't know if I just rectified that and just like pulled Twitter API and changed the information there. So I was more because like those are my two top films from Nolan.
It's X KPI API. Sorry.
That is no. I refuse. It's Jesus Christ. He's so incredibly.
It's
cringe.
Literally X now on my phone.
I see it on the thing, and it's right next to my 17 porn tabs, and they all look the same.
Of course.
Yeah, they're always open during the recording just to keep me on edge. Anyways, new releases of the week, at least for me, not for Lachlan, is Tunage. Yes, they eat tuna pizza. No, they actually like pepperoni pizza the most. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem is in theaters. I've seen it. I already talked about it today, so I guess in a couple of weeks we might revisit it. And then for now, it looks like that's going to be the movie that we're going to be talking about next week. On August 4th, we are getting the sequel to the Meg 2, The Trench, which I don't know. Didn't they already go down a trench? Or I guess they found a different part that's deeper than the Marinara Trench. And now they are...
It's set in World War II.
It's... the trenches bombed so far that water has come in, and there's a Nazi shark against the Allied shark. I'd pay to see that. That's actually pretty funny. Well, we'll be talking about that for now, I guess. Maybe something better comes around, but we'll be talking about the Meg 2 next week. So in the meantime, you can leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to not miss go check out the bonus content that you can access for free on Patreon, or just linked below in this video as well. And then let us know what you thought of Talk to Me. What's the best A24 horror film, and were we wrong with our Nolan picks in the bracket? Don't leave that here. Go to the other video and give that a watch. But thanks so much for watching. Lachlan, I'll catch you on the flip side, literally in Australia, because this whole podcast was set upside down. Are you talking to me? Because our eyeline is completely messed up now.
Am I talking to you?
Are we doing the Spider-Man kiss? We're not doing that. All right, bye.